Good evening. It is now 5:30 and I would call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the City of Lacombe on Monday, January 26th. We are missing a councillor in person. However, we are joined online by Councillor Proud. Can you hear us okay, Councillor Proud? Perfect. Okay. I will read the land acknowledgement. The City of Lacombe acknowledges that we live, work, and govern on the shared territory of Treaty 6. We honor the histories, languages, cultures, and continuing contributions of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and other First Nations, as well as the Métis people of the Métis Nation of Alberta District 4 and beyond. We affirm our ongoing relationship with this land and commit to respectful and meaningful engagement with Indigenous peoples as partners in our community. So the agenda is there. We are looking first at the consent agenda. Do I have anyone prepared to move the consent agenda? Councillor Goings.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
No comments. I'll call the question. Please go ahead and vote. I'm just looking for Councillor Proud's vote, please. And that is unanimous. The screen is green. That'll move us then to the regular agenda. I myself do have two proposals. One would be a reordering of the existing agenda and then also the addition of an additional item. So with the reordering, I would propose that we move currently 6.5, that's bylaw 400.74, move that from the position currently 6.5 to become 6.1. So that would be the first item of business under requests for decision. And the second amendment is to move the addition of an in-camera item. And the in-camera item would be under land. That's ATIA section 29, if that could be referenced in the agenda. Are there any other additions, deletions for the agenda? Does not appear to be. If someone would be willing to make a motion to adopt the amended agenda.
Yes, I move that we adopt the amendments to the agenda as presented.
Okay. No further comment, then I would call the question. Please go ahead and vote. And that is a green screen, meaning unanimous. Perfect. That will move us along then directly into presentations. We do not have a public forum today. We have 3 presentations. So just before we invite the first presenter up, I do know that CAO Gowdy did want to make a comment, so I would invite him to make that comment now.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. So this evening we have 3 presentations. This is just a reminder to Council that the normal pattern of things would be to receive a presentation and there may be a request for a decision within that presentation, and that normally we would then, with your direction, return with a request for decision at the next council meeting. So similar to your recent presentation from the Lacombe Athletic Park Association, now being followed up with an actual opportunity to make a resolution and make that decision, we would recommend the same be your consideration this evening with any requests you get for presentations tonight. That gives you an opportunity to consider the item and any additional information that you may want to have before you before making a decision in the heat of the moment.
Thank you, CAO Gowdy. So then we would just go right into presentations. 4.1 is from the Coleman District Chamber of Commerce. I would invite Ms. Byer to come up with any guests that you may have that's joining you in your presentation. When you are comfortable to turn on the microphone and please introduce yourselves.
My name is Wendy Byer. I'm the Executive Director of the Lacombe District Chamber of Commerce, and this is Danny Ducross, my chair.
And the floor is yours. You can leap right into your presentation, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time today. The Lacombe District Chamber of Commerce represents businesses and organizations across our region and has since 1924. Our role is to advocate, connect, and support businesses so the local economy can grow in a sustainable way. We are federally connected through the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, excuse me, and provincially through the Alberta Chamber of Commerce, which means locally our voices are elevated to provincial and national levels. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's not working for me. Okay. So moving on to slide 2. Our vision focuses on advocacy, member services, and networking. Everything we do is meant to contribute to a growing business community that has a positive and lasting impact on our local economy. Sustainability, economically and socially, is a key part of that vision. Our mission is simple and powerful: a collective voice advocating growth and prosperity. Individually, businesses can struggle to be heard, but together we can create influence and impact. Slide 3, please. The Chamber delivers programs that support connection, education, and promotion. This slide really captures the core of what we do day to day in the Chamber. Our events and programs are designed around 3 key outcomes: connection, education, and promotion. Connection means bringing businesses together, helping owners, managers, and teams build relationships that lead to collaboration and support. Education focuses on giving businesses access to relevant information, learning opportunities, and practical tools they can actually use. Promotion is about raising the profile of the local businesses and community initiatives, helping them to reach both residents and visitors. Every event or program we deliver fits into at least one of these areas, and often all 3. Next slide, please. Chamber's role beyond just hosting events. We're here to support local businesses with resources, guidance, and advocacy. A big part of our job is acting as a collective voice. We represent business interests to government leaders, so local businesses are considered in decisions that affect them. We also focus on connection, creating opportunities for business owners to meet, share ideas, and build partnerships through networking. And finally, we help promote the Lacombe region, not only to residents, but also to visitors and potential investors, which supports growth and long-term economic vitality. In short, we advocate, we connect, and we showcase this community so businesses can thrive. Next slide, please. We align with the city in a focus on community development, economic vitality, and supporting local businesses. But we would like to emphasize that while we focus on many of the same goals, we complement services of the city rather than duplicate them. Next slide, please. The city's support would help us to continue expanding networking and engagement opportunities like the small business breakfast that we currently run. supporting business education and skill building sessions for more than just our members, opening access to the Discover Lacombe and District app for free to all businesses, not just our members. These efforts directly support business growth and community vibrancy. Next slide, please. In 2025, the City of Lacombe supported the Chamber by way of a $10,000 sponsorship deal. This sponsorship helped us host the Chamber of Commerce Executives of Alberta Summit. Participation in the CCEA 2025 highlights our Chamber's role in driving economic activity. Events like this bring visitors, increase spending, and raise awareness of the profile of Lacombe as a destination. The economic impact extends beyond the event itself into hospitality, retail, and services. Next slide, please. The city's investment was allocated responsibly across marketing, promotion, and operational support. All funds were used with a focus on community benefits and fiscal responsibility. Next slide, please. We saw increased foot traffic in the downtown core, direct sales for local vendors and businesses, visitor attraction attendance. The city's investment actually translated into real local spending and business engagement. Next slide, please. While economic impact is important, the value goes beyond dollars. These initiatives strengthen community pride, volunteerism, and collaboration. They also help position Lacombe as a welcoming, vibrant place to live and do business. Next page, please. Our app, Discover Lacombe and District, has been building some real traction. And now is time to map out the next phase, and we need your help to do that. The Discover Lacombe app is a digital platform designed to connect residents and visitors with businesses. It promotes local businesses, events, and experiences in one easy place to access. This is a modern tool that supports local visibility and engagement. Next, please. With your support, we will be able to remove the barriers by making the app free for all businesses, not just our members. This ensures equal opportunity for visibility, regardless of business size or budget. A fully inclusive platform strengthens the entire business ecosystem. Next slide, please. The app will act as a centralized hub for promoting major community events. This improves awareness, attendance, and coordination across the community. The benefit is stronger participation and better communication overall. Next slide, please. With your support, we can also keep the small business breakfast program free for all business owners, again, not just for our members. This builds strong relationships among business owners, provides practical learning through shared experiences, strengthens the local economy through connection and support, fosters a sense of belonging with the business community. Next slide, please. We try our best to run these programs within the Lacombe Memorial Centre, and access to the Lacombe Memorial Centre supports chamber programming and events. It enables us to host gatherings that are professional, accessible, and community focused. This directly supports business engagement and educational initiatives. Next slide, please. Our 2026 ask is about continued partnership and support. This support allows us to expand programs for members and non-members, keeping services accessible and helps us to invest in tools like the Discover Lacombe app. Ultimately, this is an investment in the long-term health of the local businesses in our community. Our ask is an annual $10,000 in support from the city 40 hours of use of the Lacombe Memorial Center annually, 1 evening of the Lacombe Memorial Center for the Business Awards Gala, and use of the Gary Mo's Auto Group Sportsplex for our annual trade show. I appreciate your time and look forward to answering any questions you may have.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Are there any questions? I do have one for you in regards to the app specifically. Does it have the capability of housing a community events calendar, for example?
Yes.
I was literally just at the community dinner just the other evening, and at my table, that was actually a conversation around the table is knowing about when these events happen, and they're just of huge value, like the community supper. But it's easy to get lost and not see it or hear it, just the way that algorithms work for social media. You might not see it till after the event has happened. So I do see a need there. So you're saying that the app is capable. Do you want to expand on that?
Absolutely.
Sure.
There is a portion of the app that we can actually build a calendar into it, and we can give access to organizations like FCSS, the city, to input that information themselves. It would be trusted organizations, obviously, that we would give that access to, so that they can input that information themselves.
Okay, that would be, yeah, because it would be a lot of work to have to maintain that.
Yeah.
So if individual organizations, like you said, trusted organizations are able to input that themselves and update it as necessary if there's changes or whatnot, I could see that being something that's particularly helpful for the community. Are there any questions, Councillor Span?
Yeah, I had two quick questions. The one was, what's the cost of making the app free?
So the cost of making the app free would be about $6,000 a year.
So would that prohibit you from using some of the funds that were being directed towards marketing or other things that you've been doing in the past?
Not necessarily, because there are other options within the app that I can potentially sell. So we have something called splash ads that we can sell ads into the app. So if, say, for instance, Ford wants to buy the splash ad in the app, we could sell that, use that towards marketing. So I don't see that as a problem. And I think that realistically, once the app is running, it's not going to be a problem. The marketing is a lot more easy to do once we actually have the app, everybody inputted properly in the app, and all of the information in the app. The marketing is a much easier thing to do.
What's the current usage of the app?
So right now we're currently getting 150 new users a day.
It's really fun. I would encourage you to download it just to check it out. It's a beautiful layout. It is. It's. I was surprised.
What are you at for total users now then?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Councillor Dykeslag?
Thank you. I am on the app. It is beautiful.
Yes,
And there's so much here. Who's maintaining the app? Are you trying to do that?
We are doing that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's a lot of manpower. I mean, I think the initial part is the biggest manpower, but
Yes.
keeping it up to date. The events page looks like it'll be a great addition, as Mayor Hibbs brought up. I had a couple questions. The $10,000 request, just being a new counselor, I know you mentioned you got 10 last year. Has this been an annual, or it was first time last year and now you want 10 going forward annually?
That's what we're looking for.
Okay.
Is 10 is what we got last year for the
Mhm.
for the CCEA, and so we're looking for 10 moving forward annually.
Right. Well, and I see like everyone should have this app.
And if you
So
look-
how do we promote this app, right?
Yeah,
As part of
yeah,
your planning?
exactly. And if you look,
beautiful.
I'd like to show you that if you look on the shop section,
Was there? Yeah.
if you click that one and then click, I believe it is automotive, or is it
Mhm.
dealerships?
Automotive. Sorry, it was right at the
Automotive.
top.
And then it says dealerships or cars.
Yep.
And then Gary Mo.
Okay. Yes.
That's the kind of profile I want every business to have.
Yeah, it's
Right now,
beautiful.
every business has a very basic profile.
Mhm.
It doesn't have the pictures. It doesn't have that information. I want everybody to have that. I think that it shows a more full app if we have every business in Lacombe having that information. And for people that are visiting Lacombe, for them to be able to pull that information up about every business in Lacombe.
Yeah.
Was phenomenal.
Great. Will our playgrounds be on the app?
There's absolutely a way that we can do that.
Because they're amazing in
Yes,
Lacombe. So that'd be
absolutely.
something too. So beautiful.
Playgrounds.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any further questions? Or potentially a motion as was referenced by CAO Gowdy earlier? Nothing from Councillor Proud. Questions? I can't see her on the screen at this moment, so. No, okay. Well, I make the unusual recommendation, motion rather, that this topic get brought back by administration for what that might look like as far as adding that to future funding at the next possible meeting, whether that's the next meeting or very shortly. I would appreciate that. Because it's a motion, not sure if you're able to capture that correctly and that we can vote on that. I'll have to give a little bit of time. We're a little clunky when it comes to on the fly type things, so. But I do thank you for the presentation. That was worth the time to, hear about what you're trying to do as a chamber. I know you've grown significantly with the addition of Blackfalds. Economic development was certainly a conversation this fall, is an ongoing conversation. Definitely can make an argument that the chamber contributes to that within our community. So I think this is a worthy conversation to have at our next council meeting or soon council meeting. Just waiting for that to be uploaded. Okay, the council directs administration to bring back a request for decision to review adding $10,000 to budget for Lacombe Chamber, for the Lacombe Chamber ask. Is that clear to everyone? Okay, I will go ahead then and call the question if there are no additional comments. Please vote. And that is a unanimous vote. So look forward to having that conversation in the future. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
That leads us then into our second presentation of the evening, which is Lacombe District Family and Community Support Services, or FCSS. I would invite Ms. Zenz and accompaniment, if you could take the presenting table there and please introduce yourselves. You are no stranger to this table, so you know to please turn on the microphone. And if you could introduce yourselves, and then once you have done that, the floor is yours.
I'm so excited and grateful that Matt gets to move my slides. Thank you so much. I'm Crystal Zenz from Lacombe FCSS, and I will pass it over to my board director.
My name is Elko Vandergrift. I'm presently on the board of FCSS. And as we start this presentation, we want to first of all thank you not only for your past support, but also your present support. I've become more aware of what's happening within our community through this endeavor. And believe you me, I'm incredibly impressed by how the marginalized gets supported in our community and for the support of this council for that endeavor. So as we start our presentation, first of all, thank you very much for that.
Excellent. And you can move slides, Matt. I'll just give you a micro lesson on what FCSS is. I know you guys may have experiences in other municipalities or when you cross paths with other counselors from other communities. Our FCSS is incredibly special. We are a branch off the city and our own entity as a charitable registered charity under CRA. And so we are blessed with having a lot of the strength of the city through the IT support, reduced rent in the LMC, which is an incredible space that Matt may bump me someday and out of my office. I'm okay with that. But from IT to support from community services and CAO Gaudi and all of the support is really second to none, as well as the support from past council and this council. We appreciate that you did accept our budget request, and that will give us stability moving forward this year, and incredibly appreciative of the over contribution and the support for the Connect Accessible Transportation. So with that said, I'll just move over to the next one. And FCSS is generally 80% funded by the provincial government, 20% is mandated from the municipality. But as you are all aware, we are generously over contributed not only by the council, but we also can write grants, have fundraisers, and are incredibly supported by donations and sponsorships from our city and our population. And that's just a little bit of the model. I'm going to keep moving fast because I want to get to your handout. I already said how we're different. Our major mandate in our framework is FCSS is not a handout, but a hand up. So creating resiliency in our citizens, providing supports, education, and prevention. We're a primary prevention model. It's a little confusing because we do our significant of handouts through our fill fridge and our tools for schools, but that's because we will fundraise all of that. None of the government dollars can go towards those programs. They're 100% donor driven. And I know you guys are also entering into a new season of strategic planning. If you don't mind moving the slide over, I'm going to owe you a coffee because I'm going to go really fast. Keep going. There we go. And so these were your former strategic goals and how our programs aligned with them. We are also in an exciting phase of our new strategic plan. So we had, Mayor Hibbs attended the community supper. Thank you for that, where we surveyed. We're surveying as many people as possible. Just come off the wind of the social needs assessment. So it's perfect timing to embed that into our strategic plan, as well as hear from the community about all of our work and how we can improve, what we're doing well, what we're lacking. And the community doesn't hold back, they're honest. So we're excited to share the results with you guys. And so I won't talk about this because it's old news. So you can keep on moving. This is precious and near dear to everybody is the Connects Transportation. An emerging theme from both the social needs assessment and our survey is pressing, pressing, pressing. And I know we don't always want to talk about it, but transportation. So our Connects has expanded its wings pretty good. We not only do accessible transportation for all ages, we transport the high school, of course, all the seniors, organizational field trips from the little guys to long-term care, as well as we rent it out for charters and things like that, as long as it's a not-for-profit organization within our city. We do have a multi-funded model. However, the city bears a lot of it, right? So they're funding a high amount of it, but we have fees for service. The county supports it $4,000. Our second highest funder, I would say, next to the city would be Lacombe Health Trust, generously funds it for our dialysis, our medical trips, and all of those things. But we have cool partnerships like the Lacombe Co-op pays a subsidy so all the seniors can ride twice a week for free to the grocery stores. And so it's a very unique program, but it's bursting at the seams, and the community has spoken that they would like to see some sort of expansion. We get a lot of calls from single moms and people without transportation that need to get around town. And so we are in the mood and the season to explore all those new things. And the next slide. I'm just going to rip through some of these statistics. That's just for your viewing pleasure to see the different ways we use that fleet. You shouldn't see them parked that often because they're very busy. In fact, our youth programs in the summer had to rent from Prairie Bus Lines quite a few times because we are bumped all the time by the needs of the community. And so we don't get precedence for our own internals. Some of the program highlights, navigation services. This will be everybody that is calling in, social media walk-ins. We've had quite a hike in stats over the past few years, which is good to see. And always moved by the holiday season. That is many people that are coming to apply for the Christmas programs are the donors that are lining up right beside them. And if you ever want to be moved to the core, come and volunteer during Christmas at our agency. It will definitely show you what this community is made of. Some of our other programs, Community Volunteer Tax Program, Community Supper. We're usually full by 6 o'clock. I had a hard time seating families by the end this past Wednesday. And our volunteerism has really grown over the last years. The next slide. Tools for School is a staple in our program. Coats for Kids and Santa's Anonymous, which we partner with Lacombe Kinsman, which is a great partnership. And some of those stats over the years. Next. Home support, I was very confused by this when I first started here. I did not understand why we were cleaning people's houses. But now that I've went on some job shadows, it literally keeps people in their homes longer. And it is an incredible service that some people that are unable to clean, we have clients that are perhaps blind, wheelchair bound, all of those things. So we have about I think 130 clients right now, so give or take, that's always going up and down. And our seniors, services, and events have really taken off. We were truly blessed with a big grant, and we've had it for 3 years now. We'll have it all the way until spring 2027. It's a $96,000 grant from Healthy Aging, and it's a federal grant that helps fund a lot of extras. So it helps fund our Golden Adventures, which we use the Connects bus and go on seniors field trips. A lot of people in the survey on Wednesday said they would like sleepover field trips, and it's very creative. They don't hold back. So that has been able to expand all what we offer. So if you see a heightened amount of seniors events and seniors activities, it's being funded through that Healthy Aging grant, which is destined to keep seniors age in place. And next, well, this is my favorite. It's our kindness campaign, and I saw you had pink out in your lobby. And we usually have about 80 to 90 businesses host our kindness kits. I don't have the timer on today, CAO Gowdy. Next, sponsorships. I wish I would have got the 2025. I could have probably dug deep and quickly done that. We're just getting ready for our audit. But this is an incredible thing. And if you could just look at that for a moment, because I have operated charities in Lethbridge, Strathmore, Coaldale, Medicine Hat, and I could never operate another charity in another community. This is unheard of for us to get, and most of those donations come in 3 weeks. So it is incredibly supported. Our community is incredibly generous, incredibly kind. And I'm literally always moved to the core to see those numbers. And I had a goal this year to phone every donor over $500, and I couldn't keep up. And people were so gracious and like wanted to talk for 20 minutes. So that's why I failed. And but I just can't express enough what kind of community we live in and what kind of community we all serve. And this isn't Crystal Zenz's agency. It's not Elco's agency. It's not my staff's agency. This is definitely a community-led agency. And the community takes ownership of it and cares for our citizens in a way that I've never seen in my since 1998 years. Okay, next. So I'm trying to get to my papers. This is something new that you guys may be aware of or not aware of. We have a really special granting program that we do in a collaboration with the city. And we house the community grant program. I know there's lots of new grant programs within the city. That's incredible for diversity and doing lots of really cool projects and bringing lots of neat programs to our city and to the citizens. This is a $55,000 grant that we give away. The city puts in 50, we put in 5. My goal is to grow that more on our end. We're one of the only agencies that aren't granting out a lot of their money because we're so program driven in how our model is. But I think we can do better and grow that pot in years to come. And next, that's some of the different organizations that were awarded the grants this past year, and a lot of really cool work and diversifying needs were met through that grant. The total request was 110 and we gave away 55, so double, right? Next. And those were some of the themes from the SNAP response, and I'll get to that more. I don't know if you guys got this package, but reading through some of the comments that are provided during some of our programs are pretty powerful. And we try to be a very fiscal responsible charity, and we have a very strong, diverse board. We're lucky to have a couple of you on it, and we're at a full capacity of 11 board members. And now I don't know what I'm at time, but I'll just get you guys to review that. I didn't keep one for myself, which was an oversight. There's lots. This is hot off the press today, so we're at 202 surveys. So just to rip through these, we have quite a few seniors, of course, have taken the survey, but we are trying to get all the different age groups. Have you ever donated to FCSS on page 3? This is an incredible stat that out of 202 people, 72 people have actually donated. And that's showcases an incredible trust that the community has in this organization and how high we have to keep our bar and our standards. I thought going into your guys' strategic plans, some of these things were pressing. So these were comments that people could write in themselves. Some of the themes were cost of living, inflation, our challenges families are facing, food security, and how amazing are we to have the Echo food rescue. Like, that's incredible. But still, food security is on there. Housing and stability, mental health, well-being, transportation, and connection and awareness. And residents are feeling the pressure, and I always brace our board that our donations are going to go down. And so far, they have proved me wrong 3 years in a row. Top things for new or expanded programs, that teenage age group, people have spoke loud and clear. That was almost on every survey. And we do our teen trips, and people would like those more often. If we could shake the bus free, we would do more. Senior support and social connection, transportation and mobility access, food security, housing, family and parent connect programs, and mental health. This naturally, organically really aligns with the social needs assessment, which is good that it didn't go all the way off left base. At least we know what pillars we're going to end up with. Navigation, advocacy, and life skills, and more inclusion programs for all walks of life. Men's groups and the men's sheds, I think that was repeated 6 or 7 times, and that's in many communities. And it's really cool. And we're going to go and visit the Camrose men's shed and try really hard to bring that to Lacombe. So get thinking about a place that we could have our men's shed. The next one, community confidence in FCSS, 72% gave us a 5, so that's pretty good, and 16% gave us a 4, so those are pretty good numbers. How could FCSS improve its impact? And I was so grateful to hear Danny and Wendy talk about their app, and that we would be able to add to that, as you heard at the community supper, communication and awareness. Even though we are powerhouses on Facebook and try to put everything on there, there is a population that is getting missed. And we really appreciate when the city will share our events and share our courses and share our different things that we're programs, because I think the more we cross share, the more saturated we make the market. But that app, or one solid place for people to go and see the calendar, whether the city holds that or chamber holds that, we would be really grateful for that. Growing transportation, and this was on a lot of them. They spoke loud and clear. I summarized in layman's terms. But people want more transportation, whether it's dial-a-ride, or I was happy to hear how good the scooters did in the season, because that's getting around. And so we are a growing and changing city. Offer more family, youth, and children's programs, and support low-income and vulnerable populations. We will be sharing this with our interagency groups, because the more we can complement each other and not compete against each other, I can see us working with the FRN to fill some of these holes. Improving program accessibility, strengthening community partnerships, continue compassion, person-centered service, build community and connection, and strong overall support for FCSS. Our team and our board and our volunteers got a lot of accolades, and it was really great to read, and I'm happy to share those at our board meeting on Wednesday. Some of the bright spots and spotlights that people think we're doing really well. I won't brag, but there's the brag book there. And I want to leave time for you guys to have questions too. And this survey is still open, so if you see it out there in the world on social media, please feel free to take the survey or also share it. The more people that can answer the questions, the better overall results we'll have to put into our new strategic plan. Is there any questions? I didn't let Elko talk too much.
That's okay. You said it all.
Are there any questions for FCSS? Councillor Dykeslag.
First of all, I'm sure that 20-minute conversation had nothing to do with how passionate you are when you talk to those donors. So thank you so very much. I just want to mention, I have mentioned it to Crystal, but just to our public that's listening, as we all attended the municipal conference, FCSS and the need for funds was very evident. The stagnant 10 years, hardly any increase in funding from the province end was loud and clear, and as part of the resolutions that we have heard in the past, and then of course when we were there. So what you guys do on no increased money from the province, I know the city has definitely increased their contributions, and our citizens have. So good on you to get that word out, because the needs haven't been stagnant for 10 years. So what you guys do is incredible, and I just so appreciate the work. And we will continue to make sure that FCSS is put at the front of the line at conferences and conversations, because it's very essential to our community. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Goings.
Echoing what Councillor Dykeslag said, thank you so much for your presentation tonight, and everything that you do in the community is so appreciated. You have an incredible team led by a great leader in yourself, Crystal. So thank you. Keep up the good work, and it's much appreciated.
Thank you. That's so kind.
Yeah, how can you say thanks so many times? But I do know that quite often, like, people will come to me asking questions about, I need help, I need this, I need that, and I can't answer that. I don't have the ability to give them what they need, but I do know where they can get information at least. So often I will refer to FCSS, because if you're not offering the program directly, at least you've got information and able to guide somebody to where they can access the help or the information that they need. And so very grateful for that help that you offer in that office. It can't be oversaid how important that is to the community. So a huge thank you. Really looking forward to the kindness campaign coming up here for, that's an exciting endeavor. That's, it's been a few years now, and I do really appreciate the message of that as well, because there are so many things that can be accomplished in this community, and it can be done more powerfully with kindness. All it is a smile. How can I help you? How was your day? And so thank you for championing that. I really appreciate that as well.
Thank you.
Councillor Span.
You made an interesting comment about there's a market getting missed by only marketing on Facebook or things like that. And I definitely agree. It's something that I heard as I was knocking on doors, that seniors didn't know where to go to find information on what's going on in the community. And I do think that as council and potentially FCSS as well, should give some thought to how we can communicate out to our residents in a, we have a high percentage of seniors here. And it's not something I have an answer to at this time, but I do think it's something that we should discuss and see if there's some things that we can do.
Mhm. Yeah, that would be amazing. Any solutions for that, we will try. And thank you once again for all of your guys' support. Is there any other questions I missed? It's exciting that if you visit other communities, the kindness campaign is now in 16 other FCSS communities. So it's really exciting to see. And sometimes when I'm scrolling, I'm like, what business is that? Oh, it's Westlock. We shared our stuff. So it's really neat to see how the power of kindness can spread. And just a reminder to our citizens, just about opening a door and telling someone thank you. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, thank you for your presentation. Very timely because we do have our strategic planning coming up, as you mentioned. So this will help us inform those decisions going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That does bring us then to our third presentation of the evening, Wild Rose Assessment Services. I would invite Mr. Clark to come to the presenter table and take the microphone. If he could just do a quick introduction when you take the table, just remember to press the button to turn the microphone on so that we can hear you, obviously, as well as those that are joining us online. So welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm just coming off a cold, so I may have to take a few drinks of water.
Absolutely fair.
Just press it once and then it's
Yeah,
on.
it
Oh,
is
it's
red,
on
so that
now?
means it's live and you're good to go.
Okay,
The floor
great.
is yours.
Great, thank you, Mayor Hibbs, and thank you, council and administration for having me here today. Little hard to follow the great presentations. We kind of have to switch gears and talk about assessment. So I'll try to go through the presentation, the slides. I've presented or brought a fairly lengthy presentation, but I'll breeze through some of the slides. I've kind of made it bulky on purpose for reference material for the councilors, mayor, and administration if they want to reference something later. So if I jump right over slides, that's kind of the reason for that. So there's just an outline. We'll jump over that. I guess I can start with, my name is David Clark. I'm the appointed assessor for the city of Lacombe through Wild Rose Assessment Services. That's the company, the contracted property assessment company that's contracted through the city. And so I'm just going to go through kind of what property assessment is in a general sense, give kind of some direction on how things are done, and then finish off with some city specific, some numbers and some information in that regard, and then hopefully field some questions. So next slide, please. So at a very high level, what is the purpose of property assessment? Property assessment is the means in which municipalities can distribute the tax burden, that needs to be borne to fund all the great programs that your municipality offers. So I like to remind council and property owners through the city that property assessment does not determine your taxes. Property taxes are determined through the budget that you folks create on council. Assessment's purpose is to distribute that bill, if you will. So the next slide, please. I don't know where to look. I'll look this way. So what is an assessment? An assessment is the function of assigning a dollar value to property in town for that purpose of taxation, and that's done through either a market value or through a regulated value. Next slide, please. So most properties are assessed and valued using market value. What that is the, as I've highlighted, is the expected sale price of that property. Next slide. Some properties are assessed using regulated value. And I give a couple examples. These are kind of the far and few between properties, but there are some that have a regulated valuation is set out generally by the province on how they're assessed. So I'll jump ahead and next slide. So what are we assessing? We're assessing property that can either be land improvements or land and improvements. And then of course it describes what different improvements might be part of that description. Next slide. As we break that down, there's two major components: residential property, which is the vast majority of property in the city, your single family homes, your semi-detached, your duplexes and townhomes, that type of thing, condominium units, multifamily units like apartments, and then of course, residential vacant lots. Next slide, we have non-residential property. These are your commercial and industrial type properties. There's obviously non-residential vacant land as well. And then we kind of lump purpose-built properties into that non-residential category as well, as described in the bottom bullet. Next slide, there's some property within the city that is not assessed. Municipal infrastructure, I guess, would be a big one. Water, sewer systems, kind of describes them there. Next slide. And yeah, thank you. So there's some property is exempt from taxation. So we might assess some properties, but then it's determined to be exempt from taxation. This slide, I kind of direct how that happens. So a saying I came up with is by default, all property is taxable, and then it achieves exemption through a couple different means. The MGA, which is the Municipal Government Act, as many of you probably know. There's also a regulation, the acronym COPTR is a Community Organization Property Tax Exemption Regulation. And then municipal government can choose to exempt properties that don't fit those first two, but are deemed for whatever the municipality determines they should be exempt. Then I have on the next slide some examples of common properties that might be exempt from taxation through municipal Municipal Government Act. Listed there. Then I was going to shift gears a bit. How do we prepare assessments? So the direction on how that is done is legislated through the Municipal Government Act. Sorry, need another water break here. As well as a few different regulations, a big one being, as we call it, MRAT, Matters Relating to Assessment and Taxation. Basically outline that we're valuing property using mass appraisal. So mass appraisal in the next slide is, to sum it up, it's basically we're not appraising each property. We might review a property, an individual property, but we're valuing en masse. So we're using the sale of properties that happen to determine the value, not only for those particular properties that sold, but the properties similar to them. So the next slide, I kind of outline how property assessments can change from year to year. So the big one, of course, is that mass application, right? So we've done an analysis of the market. I'll go into more detail. I use an acronym there, ASR, that's assessment to sale ratio. So we look at what was this property assessed for, what did it sell for? The difference tells us kind of where things are going. And then we, analyze those properties based off, as said there, residential or non-residential, their location, and then the property type. We drill it down as far as we possibly can to make sure that there's equity amongst how those properties are assessed and ultimately taxed. There can also be changes to individual files, as I may call it. You know, what someone does something specific to their property that would affect only them. Obviously, in my example, new construction, you know, if you have a vacant lot and you build a house on it, the assessment's going to change on that property. We also do, or we also get from the city all the permitting information, and we review that. So, for example, if someone finishes their basement and that work is permitted, we'll then apply that change to their assessment, that it changes the market value of their property. And then there's, oh, I guess that's in my bottom bullet point, other things that can happen, subdivision, right? One property becomes many properties. The finishing basement, that's self-explanatory. And then I put disaster. So sometimes there's fires that happen in property, or floods, these type of things that will affect usually one property or maybe a couple properties, and we would make that change based off that given information. So how do we actually analyze this information? There's 3 traditional approaches to how that's done. I have them at the top there. There's the cost approach, income approach, and sales comparison approach. I'll skip over the detail, but if we want to come back to that, that's fine. Important dates. So property assessments are always based on a common date. So we're comparing everyone as of the same date. That's July 1st is the valuation date. And I always remind people that's last July. We can't predict, you know, when assessment notices come out, what the value is going to be in the upcoming July. And then the condition date is sorry, I'll maybe say further, this upcoming year's assessment would be based around July 1st, 2025. That would be the valuation date for the upcoming assessment notices that will, you know, show up in the mail in the next month or so. The condition date, however, is December 31st of 2025. So the end of the year. In a lot of cases, maybe not a big distinction if there hasn't been a change in that property. But for properties where there's the big one, new construction, we're going to value that property as if it were complete, or, you know, if it were complete December 31st, the assessment for that following year will reflect the full market value of that property. Next, a bit of a turn here, assessment complaints. So we get a large volume of calls, people questioning changes to their assessment every year, and where is this coming from? Those aren't complaints, those, I would call those inquiries. People are questioning the value on their assessment. That's welcomed. We want to explain, we want people to be informed on how assessments are prepared and how we got the value on their specific property. If at the end of that process, the person or company or whatever it might be is not satisfied with our discussion, they have the right to complaint. So what that means is they can appeal the valuation on their assessment. And I've just outlined, there's two basic ones that Wild Rose faces, I guess. The local assessment board, which is mainly residential properties, and then the composite board, which is basically non-residential and multi-residential properties. The bullet at the bottom, Land and Property Rights Tribunal, is more to do with provincial regulated property. A little bit more detail on the complaint process. First bulleted point outlines that when the assessment notices are mailed, property owners can definitely call in. They're given 67 days to there's kind of a window of where we can have discussions, make changes if it's deemed appropriate, and then appeal at the end of that if that's where things go. At the end of that 67 day window, that's then closed and they'd have to wait till next year. I think the rest of the details are be left for questioning if you guys are so interested. And then I just, for kind of interest sake, the assessment cycle. So what are we doing all year? This kind of gives a very loose kind of outline of what we're, different processes that happen throughout the year. As you can see, in December, we're now into January. I'm in the process. I've actually just finished Lacomb's assessments, submitted them to the city. My understanding is those are going out next month, I believe, your assessment notices. Mid-month was the latest I heard. So that's a deadline we have to submit those to the province, however, is February 28th. You can kind of see that at the top there. And it kind of starts our cycle all over again. So now some specific detail about assessments with the city. Again, I just kind of reiterate the dates we're concerned with. We look at 3 years worth of sales to get a volume of sales to tell us, what's happening in the market. That window for this upcoming assessment is July 1st of 22 to June 30th, 2025. And then all of those sales looking at an effective date of that July 1st again of 2025. Okay. Then what we do, this is that acronym, that ASR that I spoke of. It'll be described on subsequent slides. So again, what we're doing to help determine the change in value year over year is we'll look at what was last year's assessment, and then did that property sell in that window, and how does that compare to last year's assessment, right? If that sale is 5% higher than last year's assessment, that's an indicator that values are going up 5%. Now that's a single point of data, but we use, of course, many points of data to determine that. But that's kind of the measuring stick, if you will, of how we determine where the market is going. So in my next slide, this is just a general trend of sales and where these, if we didn't adjust sales, so this is just where they occurred and the ratio of that assessment to where they sold, you can see without adjusting for time that properties are rising in value. So this is just using a straight line showing generally the trend over the last 3 years. Now this is, oh, I didn't update the header of my slide. I apologize. It should be 22 to 2025 sales. That's what reflects in the graph. Didn't update the header. So anyway, you can see July at the bottom, July 2022 to then July, well, actually it shows August because I had data for that, but to July, that's why there's 2 points at the end, July 2025. Over that entire period of time, as an average, again, a linear line there shows an increase of 19% over that 3-year period. In the next slide, now we look at once we've done what we call a time adjustment, adjusting for that increase in market over the 3 years, what does that look like? And it's a big mess at the bottom in that graph. But what you can see is now it's relatively a flat line. And over that, so this is looking at the entire city of single family residential property. So in the last 3 years, again, the dates at the top, July of 2022 to end of June 2025, there was 957 sales of single family homes. After an adjustment for time, we can see that the median ASR is 97%. So that means median is a measure of average. On average, our assessments are 97% of the sale value. Mean is another measure of average. 97.1. Okay. Then in the next slide, this is just to show, you can see assessments go up as value of property goes up. So the sale price on the bottom, as that sale price goes up, so does the assessment. It's tightly grouped around that, what would be the 97% line. In the next slide, I tried to give a bit more context to how that ASR assessment to sale ratio works. So this is just strictly an example. This is not a real situation or a real case, if you will. But in this particular example, what I'm trying to show is in the second column, you can see this is the sale of, I think it's 10 properties, right? These 10 properties, sale prices ranged from 420,000 to 520,000. Now imagine all of these houses are exactly the same. The assessments show they're all assessed the same, but in the market, houses can sell for different values for given reasons, right? Someone might quote unquote overpay for a property because they just fall in love with whatever qualities that property has and pay more than the average person would have paid for that house or one very similar. On the flip side, someone might get a deal on a house. Someone is motivated to sell. They've already bought their next property. Whatever conditions exist such that there can be a variance in sale price for the same property. And that's kind of what I'm trying to show. It's a bit of an extreme example, but in this, you can see that these properties, they range from an ASR of 88% all the way up to 110%. With that median, so when we group properties, right, in this particular example, with these 10 properties, that came out to 101. You can think back to a couple slides ago, the average across single family homes in the city of Lacombe was 97. So this one's a little, in this example is a little higher. Hopefully that gives some reference to that ratio. In the next slide, I looked at, it's a couple of neighborhoods, but ones that we've deemed are similar. So we've looked at Elizabeth Park, Regency Park, and Lincoln Park. They're deemed to be similar in comparison for sales. And then I look at that same kind of analysis in the next slide for what occurred over the last 3 years within that comparison area. So in that area, in the last 3 years, we had 183 sales. Again, that 97.2% median in this particular, I'll call it neighborhood. And then again, the grouping of sales around that same 97%. So in the next slide, that's all great, but what does that mean for this year? So this is a snapshot of what kind of change single family homes are going to see based on this year's assessments, just the assessment change, right? So you can see the vast majority of properties would be seeing a 0 to 10%, I'll call it an increase, that's, basically, I'm going to say 3/4 of the properties are in that category, and then it breaks down from there. So, properties that are going up significantly, right, in that 25 to 100 or more than 100% increase, those are going to be new construction predominantly, or have some significant change to that property that warrants that. So that kind of gives a bit of a snapshot of where things are going. In preparing these slides, I sent them to administration and they said they were looking for a bit more of a breakdown. So I have in that 0 to 10 is obviously there's the bulk of properties are in there. However, if I looked at, I broke it down. If we broke that 0 to 10 down to 0 to 5 and 5 to 10, it was almost an equal split. There was 1,772 in the 0 to 5. And then I did this on a spreadsheet, so my number didn't come out to the exact 3,475, but so 1772, we're going up 0 to 5%. 1726 properties, we're going up to 5 to 10%. And then as a bit more of a summary to that information, for single family homes, the median increase was 3.7% this year, and the average. So I don't know if everyone knows what a median is. You have 5 numbers. The median is the middle one, the third one, whereas the average. Sorry, that was 3.7%. The average is 5.6%. So if you took those 5 numbers, added them together, divided by 5, 5.6%. So that's what single family property is looking at this year. I also did a very quick look at non-residential commercial property, and it was very much in the same ballpark. Median 3.3% and the average 4.7% for those type of property. And that concludes my presentation, and I would welcome any questions you might have.
CEO Gowdy.
Thanks. I have just a couple of early ones. Can you just repeat that breakdown of 0 to 5 and 5 to 10?
Yeah.
One of my counselors asked me that.
Yeah. So that was slide 34. So as I said, so this screen is a screenshot from our software. So I had to export that information and kind of do it on a spreadsheet. I don't know if I didn't do the right number of decimal points, but how it broke down for 0 to 5% was 1,772 properties. And then 5 to 10% was 1,726 properties. My math, those two total 3,498 properties, whereas on the slide there's 3,475. So 20 odd properties must have been the decimal point one way or the other.
Okay, thank you. While we're on the slide, so 10 to 25% increase, you have about 11.5%. I assume that they generate the bulk of your calls, but there's about an equal number. Sorry, is that true?
Sorry, I'm trying to understand.
The portion of properties that have gone up between 10 and 25% is about 1 in 10.
Okay, yeah.
That's probably the cohort you hear from in the community quite a bit.
Yes, yeah. Again, there's going to be properties that were partially finished last year and we're picking up the difference, but yeah, for sure.
It's roughly equal, about 1 in 10, that are 0 or decrease as much as 10%. Do you get a lot of calls from those people?
No. Actually, every year, I mean, we joke about it, but in all honesty, every year I probably get 2 to 3 calls from those folks. And typically the situation is they're about to list their home for, I'm talking about residential property right now. Those folks are about to list their property, right? And they're saying, what if my potential buyer looks and sees this value? I want it to be higher, right? And I have to remind those folks that haven't done the analysis for the current situation, right? If they're calling in July, my assessment was a year ago, right? That valuation was a year ago. But yeah, the odd time I get some of those calls.
Okay, thank you. I have just one more question. Could you go back to slide 30, Matt? So here, this is a scatter plot showing sale prices to or kind of the ASR in a background method, right? The
Yes.
sale price to the assessment.
Yeah.
And so I think it's worth highlighting. You've got a sort of the lines right down the middle of the dots
Yeah.
until you get kind of above that 700,000.
Yeah.
And then almost none of them are above the line. And
Right.
so to me, that says that the majority of people with homes above 700,000
Right.
are underassessed,
Right.
undertaxed.
Okay.
Is
That-
that, how do you react to that?
I guess that's fair comment because it's true. Now I'll admit to something right now with my charting ability. The I'm also a bit colorblind. The blue line that goes through the middle, I overlaid, so it's not 100% accurate, but I mean, the trend is exactly what you're saying. And I guess part of that too is, statistical analysis as we look at, the bulk of the data, this doesn't represent it, but the bulk of the data, really does appear to be around 400,000, right? There's a whole slew of sales there. You can pick out the individual dots above 700,000. There's just less data to be as aggressive, if you will. It's less, and I'm not trying to make excuses, but these properties are more unique. So when you get properties that are very similar, it's easy to nail down this house versus that house. Whereas these ones, it starts to spread out more.
But may I?
Yes.
But you have a number of dots below 200,000, a good concentration there.
Yeah.
They're all above the line. So are people with lower income houses overpaying tax?
I would say no. I would say that is a fault of my line. I would say it's a fault of my line. We do look at the different categorizations of homes. So those lower assessed properties, I'm gonna say would be something from possibly mobile homes without their own land, right? They're gonna be lower, they don't have land, so they're gonna be lower value to maybe your multifamily properties, condo departments, to all of those type of properties. We look at those like we look at them in quartiles as well. I guess that maybe that's a better way to say it. So when we look at the first quartile versus the second quartile versus the third, fourth, all these quartiles, that ratio is very similar. Now at the very, very high end of that, am I that ASR, am I going over? I'm not going over 100 on any of them. Am I going, to 99.9% on properties that are over that arbitrary kind of $700,000 mark? No. But I'm also not going over on those lower value ones either.
I guess I'm trying to make the point that property tax generally is a regressive tax. And when I hear complaints, I rarely hear from the below 200,000 population.
Okay.
But I often hear from the above 700,000 population. Is that consistent with the calls you get?
I would say on the lower value, that's true. And again, I would say with the lower value properties, there's a lot more sales that occur. That's your kind of entry level. People are buying and selling in that category all the time. We have a lot of data to support that. As you get to that higher end, I guess I haven't done the analysis on how many calls in different kind of stratifications, if you will. But really the volume of calls is fairly well distributed. And typically those calls, obviously most of them fall in the middle because that's where most of the property is. If the higher value properties are quote unquote over assessed, we definitely hear, we hear from those people. They're, through all of those quartiles, we try really hard not over assess property because that, you know, is, brings questions for sure.
To circle back to the question of if somebody does feel that their property has been overvalued, that it's overassessed, you mentioned earlier that it is best for them to reach out to you and discuss the property and to understand what their concerns are with what the assessment is, and then your rationale as to how you arrived at that number. Let's assume that that has happened. They're still not satisfied with the assessment. Are you able to change that assessment, you know, following a conversation? Or is that something that they now have to challenge via formal appeal? What is the process there?
Sorry, so are you asking, am I able to make a change to an
Yeah,
assessment during that period?
Let's just say that you had a conversation, you've explained the rationale as to how you arrived at that number, the resident is insisting that that is incorrect.
Right.
So what are potential next steps? Are you able to reassess that specific property to give a different assessment value, or has that ship sailed and now their only option is to formally appeal?
Okay, yeah. If I'm understanding correctly, a part of that process, it doesn't just have to be a phone call. Often what we would like to do is an inspection of the property, right? I guess I would also say in that regard, and I'll go back to how we're doing mass, as it was described, mass appraisal, right? So, you know, I'm probably not in 5% of the houses in any given year, not like, probably not even close to that, right? So given that, we're using a mathematical process and we're trying to treat everyone the same, right? If your house is not the same, for whatever reason, then we want to know about that, and we will address that, right? There's, I'm going to say, a range of values that we can say, well, yeah, your carpets are worn. That's typical for a 10-year-old, 20-year-old house, whatever the given circumstances. But if there is a, you know, let's take a look. If there is holes in the walls, the carpet is worn and the roof needs repair and there's leaks in the, you know, we'll address that. Definitely. So there is one-off, I'll call them one-off situations where we'll definitely make those changes to an assessment. And that happens a fair amount actually during that, as I'll call it, the inquiry period. People are calling in, and when I have that discussion and I describe, you know, you're being treated the same as everyone, and they go, my house isn't the same. Okay, well, let's talk about that. And then as we go through it, okay, you might, you know, we might have a point here, let's take a look. Right? Because painting you with the same brush when you have these concerns or these issues with your property, then let's address that, right? So that's, yeah, that drives you know, a lot of the changes that are made in that inquiry period. And we're you know, only as good as the information we're provided, right? So again, doing a mass appraisal of property when we're only kind of receiving information based off predominantly permits. If someone lists their home on MLS, like through a realtor online, we can see that information, or people inquiring, right? And on top of that, I guess we do I'll call it a neighborhood reinspection, or we do a reinspection. So sorry, approximately 20% of the population of property we re-inspect on a cyclic nature. So what that involves typically is going to a specific neighborhood, driving down the street, looking for changes to property. Kind of evolved over time. People typically don't like us at their door, you know, asking if they've made any changes to their property. But if we have reason to knock on someone's door, we'll definitely do that. This last year, you know, we went to oh boy, now it's gonna slip my mind the name of it, a well-established neighborhood. You know, these are 70s and 80s era built homes, nicer homes. English,
Could be English Estates, yeah.
sorry, just off the top of my head here. And then we look at some statistics. It's atypical for a house of that quality and that age to have an unfinished basement. So I would pull the data and say, okay, we have whatever it might be, 25 homes in this neighborhood that say they have an unfinished basement. Let's knock on their door and confirm that's the case. And then confirm all the details while we're at their home, but that's kind of the main driver. So anyway, there's a cyclic nature. We're going to review 20% per year. You know, and we'll door knock as needed with that process. So, but given all of that, we're still, you know, we're only scratching the surface. We're not appraising each home. So that's where I really encourage during this inquiry period, you know, to call in, right? It doesn't mean everyone that calls in gets a change or you know, what good is this whole process, right? If you know, there's many calls where we just have a difference of opinion and I say, well, you're valued at X because this house sold and that house sold and that house sold, or, you know, well, they paid too much. Well, you know, that's where the market is. There was multiple bids or whatever the case might be. So there's you know, that case as well.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Span.
Yeah, you had mentioned that there's been an average increase across Lacombe of about 5.6%. I was curious if you had any information or knowledge about other communities like Lacombe and if that's been fairly normal.
Yeah, I guess I would just say at this point in the year, it's kind of a little early for me to have looked across all of the other municipalities. The city of Lacombe, we have a couple other, like speaking to what municipalities that Wild Rose looks after. We're kind of early in that process. A lot of the other municipalities' information isn't, assessments aren't out for a little bit longer for me to jump into those others to take a look. But I have kind of anecdotally with the municipalities that I look after and the initial information on sales with those municipalities would say that that's you know, right in the mix. I don't have a single municipality that I look after that had a negative number this year. So everyone's on the positive side. I have a couple smaller communities that still have a double digit number, you know, 10-12% increase this year. But even we're starting to see, again, this is you know, a bit of anecdotal evidence, but I would say a bit of a cooling. The last, you know, coming out of COVID, prices were depressed. You know, your 2022, 23, 24 prices were steadily increasing, largely double-digit increases in many municipalities, and now that's started to quote unquote normalize down to that 3 to 5%. But unfortunately, I don't have those numbers for this year for you today.
Is there somewhere where we could go and get that data if we wanted to?
At this point in the year, I don't think so. Like I had that information in my presentation last year, but I think I did it later in the year. I kind of did a municipality by municipality comparison. But it was, yeah, I did that presentation later in the year, so I had that information. So it is possible to get that information. It's just early in the year to get it right now.
Councillor DeBresser.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Hibbs. Thanks for the presentation. One question, you didn't really touch on it, but what happens after you complete the assessment role for the city here? What's for the process once you send it to the province? I assume that they audit your work, yeah?
Yes, they do. Yeah. So there's I'll call it a high level audit that's done every year to make sure that we're meeting that. And yeah, I think I trimmed that out of the presentation. But there's there's an annual audit that's done. The requirement is that depending on the number of sales, but in a larger community like the city of Lacombe, where there's a great number of sales, they split by quartiles. So that lower value properties into the higher value properties, they'll look at those, and each quartile will have to meet a parameter. And what that is that quartile, the assessments have to be within 95 to 105% ASR within that range. So that's done every year for every municipality across the province, judged by that same standard. And then the province depicts a detailed audit, and that's up to them.
I had two questions. I only wrote one down, but when was the last time Lacombe went through a detailed audit? Probably.
Yeah, it was prior.
Okay.
Not since Wild Rose has had the contract. I think we've been the assessor for the city of Lacombe for 6 years, I believe. I wasn't the appointed assessor prior, so I'm not the specific date. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I just asked those questions for information for council, that it's not just one person making the assessment role. It does go through additional purposes. So if we do get inquiries from the public that it's a well sophisticated program, that it's a mass, not every house is come out and yep, that's 390,000, and you go to the next house. So no, I appreciate the presentation.
Certainly, and I appreciate that. I did have that in a prior presentation and trimmed it out. Yeah, I didn't understand it was so well received. I'll put it back in, or appreciated.
Any further questions? Not online. Oh, Councillor Dykeslag.
Well, all of us had the pleasure, I think just about all of us, of doing Assessment 101, a webinar just a few weeks back. And this was perfect timing because it really did reinforce some of those concepts. Hearing it twice has helped me a great deal. So I thank you for that, and the opportunity we had to do the Assessment 101 course with the
Alberta assessors.
Oh, okay. Who might do your big audits. I'm not sure, but anyways, it was very good to hear this and have it reinforced, because now it makes sense in the context of Lacombe. So I appreciate it, the presentation and the learning we were able to gain from it. So thank you.
Thanks.
I don't see any further lights on, so it looks like your presentation is over. Thank you for taking the time and the detailed presentation online as well. So for exactly that purpose, that we can look back for reference and also share that with residents if we're having conversations, which I'm sure we will all have conversations with residents about this, because it is a bit of a complex topic. The whole idea of setting a budget, assessments, taxation notices, obviously they're all different parts of the same wheel. So appreciate the information.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, what time are we at? 7 o'clock. All right, so we don't have any public hearings. Our next order of business would be requests for decision. You will remember that we did reorder the numbers here. So we will, what was formerly 6.5, we'll move to 6.1, or we did move to 6.1. So I would invite the presenter for that item, the bylaw 400.74, redesignation of EOS to R1. And it's first coming to council for third reading. And welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. And I didn't realize you adjusted the schedule, so I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm Albert Flubin, planning consultant, been retained by the city to support this particular file. The microphone is on, good. This has been a work in progress for some time, Mayor Hibbs will recall. And it is probably the most complex little rezoning that you probably ever see because of the factors involved. Going to go through a quick presentation. There's more detail, of course, in the report in your council package. I'm going to take a little bit of time, though, to go through the details for the benefit of the new councillors to make sure that you understand the context. So on the face of it, it's a simple redesignation from environmental open space to R1. It's a piece of land north of 5132 60th Street Close. Next slide, please. So this bylaw 400.74 proposes an amendment to the City of Lacombe Land Use Bylaw 400 to redesignate part of the municipal reserve north of 5132 60th Street Close from environmental open space to residential single detached district. So on the plan on the right side of the screen, you will see a lower drawing that shows the residential property with the outline of the house. There's a fair bit of detail on this plan showing landscape features in the backyard, concrete and stone patios, and other features that have been installed by the owners of this home over probably since the 1970s. I believe the owners purchased it in the late 1970s and over time made improvements to their yard, but inadvertently have encroached on the municipal reserve, the park space to the north of their home. And the affected area is shown in yellow on the top part of that drawing. Next slide, please. And so the purpose of this amendment to the land use bylaw is to facilitate subdivision of this land and to consolidate it with a residential property. This area was also the subject of a separate proposal to remove the municipal reserve designation. So parks and school sites are typically designated MR. That's a designation on title to the property. The only way to remove that designation is through a public process that includes a hearing and a council direction to remove the MR. So that was done last September the 8th. Also, this rezoning was subject of a public hearing, a statutory public hearing on September 8th as well. And as I noted in my report, the only member of the public who actually spoke to it was Mrs. Randall, who's the owner of the home, along with her husband. Now, the subdivision is required to consolidate, to separate the piece of land from the city park space and to consolidate it with a residential property. This subdivision has now been approved with conditions, and a key condition, of course, is third and final reading of this rezoning bylaw. The reason we did this, it's a little bit complex, but council gave first reading last August, and that set the time of the public hearing. The public hearing was held. Council gave the bylaw second reading, but we recommended deferral of third and final reading until the subdivision approval or the subdivision application could be dealt with. And now that the subdivision's been conditionally approved, we brought this bylaw back for third and final reading. I also want to note that all of this work is being done at the expense of the owner of the home. I don't have all the details of the agreement, but the owners are paying for the land, they're paying for the application fees and the staff time involved to undertake this work. Next slide, please. And so just a bit of a description about the land. The subject land is a portion of the municipal reserve area north of 60th Street Close and southwest of Lacombe Christian School. We examined the municipal development plan as part of this rezoning process and deemed the proposal to be consistent with the plan. And of course, this is an amendment affecting just this small area of land, no other changes to the land use bylaw proposed. So this is simply a map change. There's no changes to the regulations in the bylaw. Next slide. The rationale, this is important to consider. The owners added many landscape features over the years, but they occupied a portion of the MR. This redesignation is a necessary part of the process to subdivide and consolidate this portion with their residential property. And they did attend a council meeting virtually a year ago now, I believe, and asked council for consideration of their request. And of course, the city has moved forward to deal with this issue in this way. Next slide, please. And of course, as I mentioned, the statutory public hearing was held last September. No objections were received, and there are no changes to this bylaw from second reading. It's still the same bylaw. And next slide. And the recommendation is that council give third and final reading to bylaw 400.74 as presented. And I think that, is there one more slide or is that it? I think that's it. Yes. Your worship, I'd be pleased to answer any questions council might have.
Are there any questions on this item? Again, the recommendation is for third reading. Nothing online. Oh, Councillor De Bresser.
Yeah, thanks for this. This is somewhat new to me. Would you say that this situation's this situation would be addressed successfully if we give third reading? Like all parties are obviously they put the money in to get the rezoning and whatnot.
Yes, Councillor De Bresser is correct. This issue would be resolved once and for all because the rezoning would be complete and then the subdivision could be completed. There will be other conditions to that subdivision, like having the taxes paid up to date and things like that. But this is the key step in concluding this process, and then the concern will be resolved.
And just a follow up, yeah, how many other? This is probably through to CEO Gowdy. Do we know of any other situations throughout the city that this possible situation is happening?
Thank you for the question, Councillor De Bresser through Mayor Hibbs. Yes, we did an inventory of encroachments throughout the municipality and categorized them through both bylaw and administrative directive into egregious, major, moderate, and minor encroachments with different enforcement pathways for each. This is one of two or three egregious ones that we dealt with through that process. This is the resolution here. Those egregious ones required tailored approaches to bring them into compliance, with the lower tiers, minor, moderate, and major, having standardized escalating steps for enforcement. We did do an inventory. Like any municipality, you have dozens of encroachments of various severity. Encroachments that are deemed major encroachments are subject to escalating fines that reach as high as $1,000 per year that they are still in place after multiple warnings have been given and a number of years have passed. But this would be probably the most entrenched encroachment that we identified and had to tackle through that process.
Any further questions or someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor De Bresser.
Yeah, I move that council give third reading to bylaw 400.74 as presented.
Thank you. I see no further lights on. That means that I think we're ready to vote. I'll call the question. Please proceed to vote. And that is unanimous. Third reading has passed. Thank you. That moves us then to our next item. We'll return back to the top on the list of our agenda, which was 6.1, Employee Code of Ethics and Conduct Policy. Please take the floor to present.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. So this is a representation of a previous policy update that was presented to council at the your recent meeting. At that meeting, it was noted that there was an inadvertent error that referred to council rather than an employee. The rest of the policy is as previously presented, and I won't go through the exact background because I did extensively at the last meeting, but I'll answer any questions about the update or the original amendment itself.
Just noting that the recommended motions here both put in place the new policy and rescind the old. So there are in fact two separate motions. Do we have any questions on this item? Again, this is a return of this item. We did discuss it at our last council meeting, but now with revisions. Does not appear. Oh, Councillor Spann.
Just to confirm, the only changes were made to that one item that was Councillor Contenti brought up last meeting.
Yes, I believe there was also a set of questions that a staff member would potentially ask themselves in situation of a potential conflict, and those have been moved to administrative directive so they can be updated without coming back to council each time.
Councillor Dyke-Slag.
I recommend that council approve the employee code of ethics and conduct policy as presented, and that council rescinds the employee code of ethics and conduct policy that was previously in place.
Thank you. So those are two separate motions. So we will just navigate that first one, that council approves the employee conduct policy as brought forward today. Any further comments on that one specific item? Does not appear to be so. I would call the question. Please go ahead and vote. And that is a unanimous decision. And Councillor Dyke-Slag has also made the council rescinds the former policy. Are there any further comments or questions on that? Pretty straightforward. If you put one new in place, need to take the old one out. I will assume not. I'll call the question and please vote. And that is unanimous. Thank you. That moves us along then to our next item, bylaw 506.2 traffic bylaw amendment. I know this is a presentation by one of our directors, but CEO Gowdy did ask to have the opportunity for a quick comment before we entered into this item. Go ahead, CEO Gowdy.
Okay, thank you. So before you this evening, Director Halverson is going to present a resolution that addresses strictly the request that came from the school board. What you will find is that there are items, and this is a great one, that are so interesting and tangible and have such widespread impact on the community that it's really exciting to go down that road. And so even as we started talking about this, issues of consistency between school zones and playground zones, the application of the 30-kilometer-an-hour zone in downtown and whether that should be expanded to nearby streets came up. Residential default speed limits of 50 kilometers versus 40 versus 30, consistency on Highway 2A of speeds, and all of this. We also had a resolution, you remember, Mayor Hibbs, councillor at the time, regarding heavy truck traffic downtown. And all of these are interconnected safety and traffic efficiency considerations. And it is really easy to be drawn down that road. Our last transportation master plan was done in 2013 and then a refresh in 2021, just updating some of the numbers and thresholds. But we probably are due for a transportation master plan update at some point in the foreseeable future here, maybe within your term. But please, I urge you to make that a conscious decision. Wait till strategic planning. And if you want to go down that road of addressing some of these really interesting and kind of like exciting topics, make that a decision that that's where you're going to put some of your focus and resources, because if you don't, it can easily just lead you down that road and suddenly you've made a decision to focus on and prioritize this issue, which could be the issue you want to address during your term, but it could be something that you say, well, that's important, but we can't do everything all at once, and it's not my priority right now. So we are aware as you go through this debate that what we have presented here with our first and second reading motion is very discrete. It's very focused on just the single issue that's been raised, which is time zones of when the school's time zones start and end. we're not deliberately, well, I guess we are at this time deliberately avoiding going down these other routes, but we're aware that they are issues that at some point there may be a desire to address them. So as you go through, we did it ourselves. We started going down those routes and we really tried to, okay, let's focus this in. We don't want to make the decision and preempt your strategic planning by starting down something that could easily be a significant portion of your strategic plan over the next 4 years. This transportation master planning refresh. To Director Halverson.
Thank you, CO Gowdy. Good evening, Mayor Hibbs and Council. Like CO Gowdy said, I'm here to present amending traffic bylaw to update the school and playground zone operating hours when the children are actually in the area. The amendment updates the school hours to match when the students are there. It's response to Terrace Ridge School, which are starting earlier due to some scheduling of busing issues that they had in their school. So with the review of the school hours, we're changing the start times from 8 o'clock to 7:30, and the afternoon schedule from 3 o'clock to 2:30. And then the mid time is unchanged. And also we're updating the school playground, or sorry, the playground zones from 8 o'clock to 7:30, and that they're continuing to 1 hour after sunset, aligning with reduced speeds when the children are present. So if these changes have come into effect, the signage will be fabricated this spring, installed this summer, and communicated to the public ahead of the 26-27 school year. So the recommended motions before you are the first and second readings of bylaw 506.2. I'll be happy to answer any council questions.
Do we have any questions? Councillor Dyksleg.
Did I just hear correctly that this would not be in effect till the 26-27 school year? We can't make it be in effect for the Terrace Ridge area earlier?
CO Gowdy.
Certainly that's an option for you. An update of the bylaw will require 3 readings and then ordering the signs and installing them. So absolutely we can do that faster, but for consistency of messaging, we had proposed for the 26-27, but it's to your decision.
Councillor Span.
Through Mayor Hibbs to administration, would this just apply to the Terrace Ridge School or all the schools?
The school zones are consistent throughout the community, so unless you made a more substantive amendment than what we're proposing that would separate them out, they would apply to all zones. This issue of the 8 a.m. start time, our current school zone, or our school zones currently don't actually start till 8 a.m. So as much as this is something that has been raised by Terrace Ridge in response to some inquiries we sent to them, it has been an issue throughout the community for years, many years, because with an 8 a.m. school start time, kids were walking at 7:40 previously too. It's a minor change that they've made, but it did raise it for us. We reached out to the school actually and received that feedback back.
Councillor Proud.
Hi there, through Mayor Hibbs to Director Halderson. Just a question I had raised a while back about the College Heights Christian School school zone. Would they need to send a letter through to sort of get the ball rolling with that area of Lacombe as well? Because that's another area of Lacombe that's not even designated a school zone at the moment. And it has a primary school, high school, university, daycare, all of that. So I'm just wondering I see like the Terrace Ridge principal got the ball rolling with the city. Would that be something that the College Heights Christian School needs to do as well?
CEO Gowdy.
So the bylaw that's before you would only change the start times, just the times of operation, that those school zones are in effect. They would not differentiate between the different schools, and they would not change the location or existence of any school zones or playground zones. That would be something separate. Certainly, it is your prerogative to make that change, but I would recommend doing that as a subsequent activity should council endorse looking at school zones as a priority.
Any further questions, Councillor Proud, on that, or is that suitable?
So I guess the question is like, what does the College Heights Christian School need to do to get the ball rolling? Or is that something that we initiate or they initiate?
Either one would be fine. Either you can direct that there be a review of existing school zone locations specific to College Heights, or certainly if they send in correspondence requesting that sort of thing, we bring that to council as a matter of normal course.
Councillor Contenti.
Yes, thank you, Director Halson through Mayor Hibbs. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in Red Deer, I think they designated school zones and playground zones as the same. Is that correct?
Yes, through Mayor Hibbs to Councillor Contenti. Yeah, that's correct. It's playground zones and school zones are combined there, and there's a couple of school zones on certain streets that there's still dedicated school zones just on school hours from 7:30 to I think 4:30 is the times there, and then the rest is 7:30 to 9 p.m.
Okay. Yeah, it's just something that I thought was good in Red Deer. I lived there for a while and it was less confusing because sometimes is this a playground zone or is this a school zone? I don't know. So I kind of like that one thing where we could do them all the same. But
and that's how easy it gets slippering down the slope that CEO Gowdy
I
just
know.
mentioned. So,
but I mean, if we're going to look at changing one just for that particular instance, yeah, how much later do we're doing the strategic planning? You said this year you're re-looking at everything?
this amendment?
No, for the whole, all of the traffic things.
That's through your strategic plan. That would be.
That would be something that we would identify during strategic planning as a possible priority or not a priority at all, frankly. But as was expressed earlier, this is definitely a slippery slope that could turn into a large conversation and possibly a very important one. But just to be mindful that we do have strategic planning for further discussion as such. Councillor Span.
Through Mayor Hibbs to Director Halderson, just to clarify, other schools have been approached about this and they've seen the same problem, and that's why this amendment is proposing to change all the school zones to these times. Is that correct?
Through Mayor Hibbs to Councillor Span. Yeah, that like with CEO Gowdy said, the school starts at 8, so kids are coming before 8 to school. So this was an ongoing issue before, and with that letter, it just pushed it forward to create this amendment.
So I do have, I guess, a question and a comment, but just further to that, I think that the main goal here is consistency. So that is probably why playgrounds are being included, even though probably anecdotally, it's rare to see children at a playground at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, but potentially it could happen, especially more so in the summertime. I guess my concern, and this somewhat was touched on already by Councillor Dyke-Schlag, is the amount of time that it's taken to address this situation. As soon as school started, literally first days in, I was already getting communication as a councillor in the prior term, which I then immediately did pass on to administration. So administration was aware of this prior to even administration of that school contacting the city, because I had actually asked, has this happened? And if not, what do we need to do to address it? So I guess my concern here for the community is, why has this taken so long to come back to the table? And now we're talking about not implementing this potentially until September. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, I'm a little bit disappointed. And so I would like to know why it has taken so long for this to come to the table here. Is it because we weren't sure of the scope that you would be bringing forward? Or I just would like an explanation as to why this was brought forward in September and it is now almost February before it has come back to chambers.
That's on me. I had identified early on that there was a potential for this to be a larger scoped issue, and had initially thought that maybe we would try and tackle the playground zone, the unification of our community safety zone, to what Councillor Contenty was referring to. I had thought maybe we would try and do that and bring you some recommendations here to this meeting today or even earlier. But once we started going down that route, we realized actually this should require or involve some community consultation if we're going to look at a substantial change like aligning the two zones, because while it is certainly consistency makes it easier to know how to behave, having those every playground zone and school zone be the same and be in place from sun up to sundown does also drive some traffic efficiency issues. And so once we started going down the route of actually preparing it, I realized it would be kind of a larger exercise, and it just took me longer to get it here. So I apologize for that.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. I would just really highlight that when we're talking about safety in particular, that I just would like to see more urgency going forward in the future, especially because we're dealing with children. I drive through that area on a regular basis, and I know that without really watching for students crossing the road, you may not see them until the very last moment. And with the slippery conditions that we've had this year, in my opinion, excessively slippery conditions at times because of the way that the weather conditions have been, it's frankly frightening. And so I just, again, reiterate, going forward, if safety issues like this come forward, I hope that we can address them quicker than a full year passing before we're able to address it. We're now entering into a phase where the days are daylight is getting longer. That will allow us to see those students a little sooner again, but we're not quite through the woods yet. So that is just my comments on this item. Thank you. Do we have anybody that is prepared to give first reading? I guess technically we've already kind of stumbled a little bit on this one. As a rule, we don't really debate first reading, but my apologies. We did sort of debate this, I guess. But do we have anybody that's prepared to make first reading on traffic bylaw 5.06.2? Councillor Goings.
I move that council give first reading to traffic bylaw 506.2 as presented.
Councillor Span, did you have a further question before we go ahead with our first reading?
The only comment that I was going to make was that I agreed on the making this happen faster. And I think if we're all in agreement that this is something to do, try to make it happen as fast as humanly possible rather than waiting until the following school year.
I see no further lights. So for first reading, I'd go ahead and call the question. Please enter your vote. And that is unanimous. Administration, could I just ask for some clarification on the timing? As far as the bylaw goes, that just makes the changes to the date. As far as the timing of implementation, I assume that's not part of the bylaw. I can't recall off the top of my head if that's just administrative procedure. CAO Gowdy.
No, section 3 of the amending bylaw has it coming into effect on August 31,
Very well.
2026. So if you were looking to advance that, you could give us direction for as soon as possible, and we would modify that when we bring it back to you for third reading based on supplier times and that sort of thing.
Very well. I appreciate that clarification. Do I have anybody that's interested in moving for second reading at this time? Councillor Span.
Do we need to make that amendment before we, or vote on that amendment before we move a second reading?
I mean, I guess that's up to the group, not necessarily because you are not passing third reading. So third reading could include that amendment, but for clarity, it might be worth to make that amendment now going forward.
Yeah, I would move that we make an amended motion to make it, to change it from effective August 31st to as soon as possible. Or is there another date that we should pick that would be more appropriate?
CEO Gowdy, can you give direction on what would be appropriate?
Often the bylaw comes into effect upon passing third reading. We could look at that. Typically with any change like this, we're going to look at a period of education for that first implementation anyway. And so that would be fine, even if there's a small gap where the signage is ordered, but the bylaw is passed, our officers are going to use discretion and wait till the signage is there and then start with education. So that would be fine if you said this bylaw comes into effect
upon third reading.
Upon passage of third reading.
Is that suitable, Councillor Span?
That's suitable to me.
Are we able to get that captured in the updated motion? Working on it. Coordinator Post.
Just to be clear, we're going to pass the amending motion first and then move into the second reading, or are we combining the second reading motion to include that amendment?
We combined, yeah. The motion was not made, so we do have the Councillor Span had the opportunity to add that in as a main motion. Electronic voting is fabulous, but like I was mentioning earlier, it can be a little bit clunky, but we want to make sure that we're accurate. So just give it a moment to update. Looks like we have an amendment here. So 506 come into effect upon passing of third reading. So the motion has been updated to include the amendment, Councillor Span. So that is the motion on the floor. Do I have any further comments or questions on that second reading? Coordinator Post.
For the benefit of Councillor Proud, I'm going to reread the motion.
Absolutely. That
council amend bylaw, traffic bylaw 506.2 to come into effect upon passing of third reading and give amended bylaw 506.2 second reading.
I see no lights. I would say we're ready. I would call the question. Please proceed to vote. And that is unanimous. Second reading has passed. Thank you. And third reading will come to a future meeting. CAO Gowdy.
Yeah, just in acknowledgement of the discussion and 2 unanimous votes, I did want to point out that there is a path to provide 3 readings of a bylaw at one meeting. It requires a unanimous consent to move from second to third reading. But if expediency is as important as I'm reading it this evening, there is a mechanism available to you to pass third reading this evening And then we would be actioning this starting this week. And that would be to unanimously pass a motion to proceed to third reading at the same reading or the same meeting as first and second were given, and then pass that third reading.
Not sure what council feels about that. The one benefit to allowing third reading to come back to a future meeting is it does allow the public to have an opportunity to weigh in. Is this a huge change? No, but it is a considerable change, so it's not to be underestimated. Personally, I think we've gone this long that another meeting is not the end of the world to allow residents to weigh in. But that is just me. Absolutely anybody can try to show me otherwise. Councillor Contenti.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I would like to see it wait as well. Just so that, I mean, it's going to hold us up by a couple of weeks, maybe something like that. So by the time we get signage and all that, I don't think it's going to be too bad, and just gives the public time to weigh in.
Very well. In order to consider third reading, it would need to be an unanimous. Clearly, it won't be. So we will move on. The next item on our agenda is 49C Pedestrian Plaza use and next steps. I believe Director Hackett is the one that will be leading this item. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor Hibbs and members of council. I'm very pleased to be able to present to you tonight an update on the use of the 49C Pedestrian Plaza and some potential next steps for your consideration. So next slide, please. Usually I have the clicker, so this is quite a change tonight. So the purpose of the report on the agenda tonight is to give an overview of the use of the new 49C Pedestrian Plaza to date, and to set out some possible next steps for council's direction. Next slide, please. In terms of background, the 49C Pedestrian Plaza is located downtown in front of the Flatiron Building. In 2025, the plaza was created by making the street one-way, as well as installing amenities such as planter boxes, plugins for food truck, benches, and a larger sidewalk area. Next, please. So this photo shows the location of the plaza. To the north is 50th Avenue, and to the south is Highway 2A. Next slide, please. This is the 49C Plaza from a drone flown in the fall. Next slide, please. So creating the plaza had several goals, and a key goal was to increase visitation in the downtown, bringing more residents to the downtown, having them stay longer, and bringing visitors and tourists to Lacombe. 2 special events have been held since the plaza was completed in the fall. Next. And so the first one was held in September on a perfect fall day. It was a ribbon cutting and pancake breakfast. The ribbon cutting was sponsored by the city of Lacombe to do the grand opening of the completed plaza, and the pancake breakfast was sponsored by the Historical Society, kind of in partnership with us. Next slide, please. So here is the ribbon cutting. I don't know if anyone recognizes themselves there or not, but I think some of you in the room do. Next slide, please. And so just some photos from the public attending that event. Next. The second special event that was held there was in November of 2025 as part of Light Up Lacombe, so parade night. And the Historical Society closed the street to host teepee, fire pits. Next slide, please. Food truck and some amazing maple taffy. Next slide, please. So anytime that the street is being temporarily closed, it does require, it's considered a special event, and it does require a permit under the major events policy. And that's policy 26-20101. That's been in place since 2012. And this policy applies to any street in the city that the public or a person would want to close for an event. And so the city does regularly consider applications under that policy. There's no cost to apply. It is administratively reviewed, and permission is granted under that policy by the CAO. Also, the application form just indicates that the city may be able to assist groups who are closing streets. So sometimes we have barricades or picnic tables for example, that people can request at no cost to support their event if we have them available. Next, please. So even before 49C Plaza was created, the street was the subject of some special events. And so there was a long table dinner that I've heard, I wasn't there, but I heard lots about it in the past as a fundraiser. And One Horse Town also was held over 10 years ago in this location, which Lacombe won a contest to sponsor that concert. Next slide, please. So both events held since the plaza has opened, so the two in 2025 did follow the major events policy. They were free public events. They were approved by the CAO. Some previous events, like the ones I showed there, were ticketed admission. So they were I guess involved the public groups as special events, but you did need a ticket to attend those. Next, please. So as the plaza got developed and was being completed, administration has discussed ideas for future use of that revamped street. And the DARP committee has also provided some brainstorming ideas. And I think both groups feel there is an opportunity for continued public special events, but also perhaps more private style events such as ticketed concerts, private fundraisers, weddings, or private business events. Next slide, please. The benefits of allowing a wide range of events could include more local business or benefits to local businesses who would see increased traffic, an opportunity to showcase our beautiful downtown to residents and the history of Lacombe on display in that location, and then just more activities that are available to our own residents who will stay in downtown. Potential concerns, whoops, too fast. Back. Potential concerns could be if there's frequently events or if it is busy, that could be many weekends, for example, that street is closed. There could be administrative costs if we're seeing a lot of applications to close 49C temporarily for events and borrowing the barricades or borrowing picnic tables, for example, that could increase some of our administrative costs. If the space is very successful, that could compete with paid venues or shift bookings out of maybe the LMC or other private venues, and people would choose to have their events outdoors in this location instead. Or the impact of temporary street closures on some of the businesses and residents who are located on that street. Now next, please. Thank you. So because this is new and we're not sure how it will go, administration is recommending a one-year trial period approach. And the first part of that is to continue to accept special event permits for the street. The approval would be with the CAO at his discretion. And so no cost to apply and no distinction if the event is public or private, but noting and making sure that groups know that the street is still a public place. So if someone does walk down it to get to their business, they're allowed to walk on the street. Might be through your wedding, it might be through your private ticketed event, but people can walk down the street. The second part would be a one-year trial monitoring period. If council's interested in that, starting this January till next January, just to see how many times is it booked. This year? Are there any concerns? What types of events are held there? And bringing a report back in Q1 2027 of the results of that one-year monitoring. And then right now, if council agrees, updating the city webpage with new information and the special event permit so that groups can start to plan their event there this year. Next, please. In addition, in the report, you may have noticed that the DARP committee passed a motion at their January 6th meeting, which is related to 49C, so I wanted to bring it forward tonight. And the motion was that the DARP committee recommend there be a branding and marketing name created for 49C Pedestrian Plaza, and that council direct that this be tasked to the DARP committee to develop suitable naming alternatives for their consideration. Should council decide to task DARP committee with this project, administration would work with the committee to develop some alternatives to be brought back for your consideration later in 2026. And I think there just was some sense that 49C, that's an okay name, but it isn't as exciting a name as maybe a marketing and branding name that the committee wanted to dig their teeth into a little bit. Next slide, please. So the recommendation before you tonight is two parts. The first being that council authorizes a permissive approach to special event approvals for the 49C pedestrian plaza for a one-year trial period, directing administration to bring a report back to council in Q1 2027. And that council direct the DARP committee to develop a list of potential marketing names for the 49C plaza for council's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions in regards to this presentation and the recommended motions? Councillor Dyke-Slyke.
In regards to the concern questions, when there is an event there, what is our through Mayor Hibbs to Director Hackett, parking? Like when we had the first event there, we had 2 cars, we had to back out with police because. So what is the enforcement of that? I know there's lots of notice I heard to those residents, but how often are we going to be displacing potentially residents? And then how do we ensure they're out of there?
Through Mayor Hibbs to Councillor Dyke-Slyke, thank you. This is some of the things we need to work out in the year. You're very right on that event in September. I think it was 2 or 3 cars that had the notice and then eventually during the event decided they would move their vehicle. So that is not optimal, and particularly if we'd been setting up a table or a concert stage. So we will be working with enforcement services to come up with a ticketing process. That was the first event. And so we don't want to see that happening. And I'm sure residents don't want to get their car trapped there either. So we do need to come up with a night before warning system or a ticketing process.
Councillor Span.
Through Mayor Hibbs to Director Hackett, with the second recommended motion that council direct the DARP committee to develop a list of potential marketing names, is there a cost to council for that, or do they have funds that they're using?
Through Mayor Hibbs to Councillor Span, I think at this stage there would be no cost because they're not committee is not looking at changing a street name or street signs, but just more of a marketing branding name for promoting it for website. There could be some cost down the road if we wanted to do paid advertising, for example, with that name, or so there could be potential costs, but at this time it wasn't a it wasn't a budget request.
Councillor De Bresser.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Hibbs. Through to Director Hackett. My question was similar to Councillor Span's. Is the marketing names, is that an opportunity for sponsorship? Is it weird saying Primerica Plaza or something, Stantec Plaza, or, something along the lines of that we could sell the naming rights and it's just another revenue source? Is that off the cuff idea? Is that a bad idea? Is it possible?
Thank you through Mayor Hibbs to Councillor De Bresser. The city does have a sponsorship policy, so that would be one thing that it would be taking to the committee to make sure we were aware of if it went to the point of the sponsorship side. That was not really what the motion was about. The motion was more not about sponsorship, but more about giving it an exciting name that would draw people in and help them identify Lacombe. And in the conversation, one of the comparables was the Ice District in Edmonton. And so that has now become an event center for concerts, for pre-game parties, New Year's Eve. And so when you say the Ice District, people know it now has a bit of marketing and branding. People know what you're talking about in Edmonton, but as opposed to a sponsorship name for a facility. But I certainly will be bringing that policy with me to the discussion.
Councillor Contenti.
Thank you, through Mayor Hibbs to Director Hackett. Overall, I like some of the things that you're talking about, but this was one of the biggest issues in my campaigning was 49C and the cost of it and the spending and all that. So couple of things that just come to mind, the ticketing thing. Not quite sure I'm on board free ticketing or free for people that are going to charge for tickets and stuff is one. And the other is I'm not prepared tonight to make a decision like that. I would need more time. I need to talk to a lot of the people that talk to me about 49C. But overall, I do like some of the ideas, but it was a hot item. And so I'm just not prepared to vote on something like this tonight. But as I say, I do like some of the ideas.
Councillor DeBresser.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Councillor Contenti, I think the investment that the city's made in this area warrants this motion before us. I'd like to see the area used. I'd like to see the report come back in a year's time to see, hey, what did we do good? What can we improve on? I think some of those questions would be answered if we had the data in a year's time.
Councillor Goings.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs, through to Director Hackett. Do we have a target goal for a number of events we'd like to see booked on 49C for this one-year trial period?
Mayor Hibbs and Councillor Goings, we had not set a number. So no, we haven't set any goals.
I kind of figured that might be the case. I just wanted to see just in case. Thank you.
Councillor Dyke-Slag.
I'd like to move to the motion that council authorizes a permissive approach to special event approvals for the 49C pedestrian plaza for a one-year trial period, directing administration to bring a report back to council in Q1 of 2027.
Very good. Councillor Span, did you have something additional?
Yeah, just one more question on that. It says permissive approach. Are there other thresholds that you would use, or what are the other options other than permissive?
Thank you through Mayor Hibbs to Councillor Span. Permissive referred to both public and private, and so not restricting weddings or private weddings or ticketed events. So another way that council could go would be to go only with public events by nonprofit groups, or to address the element of business or taking public space for a private event. So it could be just on the public. And the two that have been held have been public. Anyone could attend.
Councillor Span.
I would support a permissive approach at this time. Obviously, I'm going to be heavily impacted by whatever goes on there with my office. I may need some sponsorship information at some point. But it does make me nervous a bit. How often is that road going to be shut down in front of the office? But I'm open to seeing how it goes.
And hence the pilot, essentially a pilot project for 1 year. I see Councillor Proud is trying to get our attention. Councillor Proud.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Through Mayor Hibbs, I sit on the DARP committee. There's a lot of work that this committee has done to get this plaza to where it is today. I know a lot of us, when we were running for council and for Mayor yourself, we heard a lot of feedback, and I think we're all a little leery with this space sometimes, but I feel like we really need to dive into using it, because if we let it just sit there, I think we'll have even more negative feedback than if we don't start using that space for the community.
Thank you, Councillor Proud. It doesn't look like there's any further comments or questions to be made on the motion that's on the floor, so I would go ahead and call the question. Please go ahead and vote. It is not a unanimous decision. Councillor Contenti is opposed. The remaining council is in favor. That motion has passed. There is a second motion recommended. Do I have anybody that is prepared to make that motion? Councillor Goings.
I move that council direct the DARP committee to develop a list of potential marketing names for the 49C pedestrian plaza for council's consideration.
Are there any further comments or questions in regards to this item? Councillor Dykeslag.
I think I'd just like to say once again, I'm concerned about a potential marketing names for an area that might get a sponsorship and how we can include that in the conversation. Because we'd hate to name it one thing and then have a name change after we've done some marketing. So I wonder how we can do that in parallel. My question is, can we look at both those aspects of things? Thank you. Mayor Hibbs.
Any comment from administration on to that? I'm assuming the idea would be to come up with something relatively generic that could then be called the Apple Plaza, if that's the name of the sponsoring company, or the Banana Plaza, because that's the name of the sponsor. Obviously, Plaza is not very exciting, but is that the intent?
Well, we have representation here this evening, so they have been listening intently. And I think will likely include consideration and maybe a response to this sponsorship discussion in any future recommendations that they come up with and present to council. So perhaps we, rather than preempting their thoughts, we'll ask them to make comment on that when it comes back.
Any further consideration? Does not appear to be so. There is a motion on the floor. I would call the question. Please proceed to vote. And that is a unanimous decision. Thank you. So that takes us to the next item on our request for decision. I am looking at the time. It is 8 o'clock. I'm just wondering if anybody is dying for a break at this moment in time. Does not appear to be so. Would you rather just plow ahead? Looks that way. All right, so we will then jump right into the LAPA 3-year agreement item. And that is that Director Hackett, yes, leading us on that item.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs and members of council. At the January 12th, 2026 council meeting, the Lacombe Athletic Park Association, or LAPA, made a presentation outlining their 2025 achievements and highlights. As part of the presentation, it was noted that a previous 2-year agreement between LAPA and the city had expired at the end of the year, end of 2025. And their request was made for a new 3-year funding agreement to be entered into to provide a stable base for the association's operational funding. In the 2026 operational budget, LAPA was approved for $56,000 to operate the athletic park. In 2027 and 2028, they are asking for $65,000 each of those years as well. So no increase, but keeping it stable at the $65,000. So the recommendation before you tonight is that council directs administration to enter into a 3-year operational grant funding agreement with the Lacombe Athletic Park Association for the purposes of operation of the Lacombe Athletic Park. Thank you.
Councillor Goings.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Through Mayor Hibbs to Director Hackett. What is the reason that they're requesting a 3-year agreement instead of a 2-year agreement this time?
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs, through to Councillor Goings. In the past, they've had a 3-year as well. Last time was a 2-year to keep pace with the county. I guess the county's agreement was expiring, but the county's agreement is now a 5 years. So, so that doesn't, they don't add up either. So I guess the short answer to that is I'm not quite sure, but they feel confident based on their operating costs and their plans that a 3-year gives them the base they need to continue to operate it.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Councillor Contenti.
Yes, and we have to Councillor Gowen. Yeah, if I remember correctly, because they wanted to spend a bunch of money doing some retrofitting on the track or something, they needed that 3-year consistent thing. So
okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Any questions online? If not, then there is a recommended motion. Perhaps somebody is prepared to make that motion. Councillor De Bresser.
Yeah, I move that council direct administration to enter into a 3-year operating grant funding agreement with Lacombe Athletic Park Association for the purposes of operating the Lacombe Athletic Park.
Any further debate? Does not appear to be so. I'll go ahead and call the question. Please enter your vote. And that is passed unanimously. Thank you. That does bring us to the last item then in our request for decision, which is based on a council motion that was brought forward by notice of motion at our last council meeting. This is brought by Councillor De Bresser, so I would hand the floor off to him to introduce his motion.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. I'm happy to present the first notice of a motion for this council. So I'm looking for council support here for amendments to the council remuneration and expense policy. Namely, the first amendment that I'm looking for is allowing council to opt out of raises. Administration advised in December that under the current policy, which was adopted by council, we're required to take these raises. I'm seeking adjustments to the policy to give council the option to opt out. The second amendment that I'm looking for is seeking support on the automatic removal of the automatic link between council's compensation and the CAO's salary. Currently, as you're aware, these are tied together. Effectively, when we grant a CAO wage increase, it increases council's wages by default. To my knowledge, Lacombe is the only municipality that has this arrangement. For reference of the policy, the sections are 6.1.2 and 6.1.3. I ask that council vote in favour of this. Even if you are against one of the amendments, I would like to see this come forward for a debate and hopefully for approval. And with that, I'll have any questions.
I do actually have a couple questions. I don't see any lights on immediately, so I will leap in. I guess the first question that I have is in regards to why are you not pursuing this through the committee that's specifically tasked with remuneration, which actually you're a member of, rather than it coming to council and not using that avenue?
So you're asking why I'm coming to council for amendment of the policy rather going to the subcommittee, the council remuneration committee?
That is correct.
Okay. The council, I think the terms of reference, I think for the council remuneration committee meets once every 4 years based on the previous data of the previous council setting council's wages for the future meetings. So I don't think that's the avenue here. Well, I don't think that's the avenue to say, let's strike the ad hoc committee meeting saying, let's break this policy. I think it's a council policy. I think it can go directly to council. However, I was expecting a question that how would we establish compensation for council? And I would say, instead of this committee meeting once every 4 years, let's meet on a yearly basis before budget to analyze council's wages. So that's I went around a circle a little bit there, but I think that committee can meet once a year to discuss council and where they sit relatively to other comparable communities.
So my question is based on the fact that it is true that we're required at minimum to have that committee meet once every 4 years, but it also says as required. It would be my opinion that this would be something that would go through that committee first to flesh out and then to make recommendations to council. But to take another step in a different direction, I'm also curious as to why this would not wait until strategic planning. This seems like a very good item that we would have discussed during strategic planning as part of like a notice of motion is something that's emergent. And one, I don't feel that this is emergent, but two, that would have been, I believe, an excellent opportunity for us to discuss that in strategic planning. And then going forward, we would know sort of what council would feel the direction should go on. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong to do one way or the other. I'm just curious as to why you chose this route as opposed to waiting for strategic planning, where that something like that could be factored into the priorities of council as a whole.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Great question. I don't think it has the substance to be a strategic planning item. I think it's minor amendments, practicality. You know, it may have a little bit more admin time on the backside there, but I wouldn't feel comfortable putting this item in a strategic plan and saying, "Yay, we amended a policy based on what I'm seeing here." Normally, strategic plannings are bigger items like safety, you know, economic development, transportation. There's a whole myriad of issues that I think will come into our strategic plan, and I don't see this being a worthy enough item. I don't think, maybe not worthy, but big enough item to make it into that plan, if that answers your question.
No, that's fair. I just have one final comment and then I will allow somebody else to take the floor. I guess the other thing that I say that makes me factor this into the level that it would be strategic planning is some of the remuneration policy is based also on the travel and business expense policy, which I also think definitely needs some overhaul. I think that there's some there's some areas that could be reviewed and tightened up, and that would not only be for council, but that actually would be for the organization on whole. So I do actually think that this is a very appropriate strategic plan topic, but I will leave it at that, and I will hand the floor over to Councillor Contenti for his question or comment.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. More of a comment than question. And maybe I'll ask a question after to CEO Gowdy, but from my understanding and talking to other councillors who've been at this a lot longer than we have, the reason why they said it this way was to avoid the annual argument, constant, should we do this? No, I don't like that. You went to this many meetings and you got this pay and somebody else didn't and all that stuff. So it seemed to me very good idea, just then to have it that way. And I suppose, I don't know, and this will be a question to say Gowdy, if you don't want to take any increases as a councillor, you can opt out of doing that. I'm not sure. So that would be the question, comment and question.
Sort of counterintuitively, no, because it's a council policy, it's owned by all of council and thus applies equally to all of council. While this would be sort of like a benevolent opt-out, it isn't up to council to opt in or out of their council policies. And so what we've seen in similar other municipalities addressing similar issues is that some councillors there will publicly commit to donating the differential to a local charity or something.
Good, thank you. That was my next question. So thank you for answering that.
Councillor Span.
Through Mayor Hibbs to Councillor DeBresser. The two motions that you're bringing, just to clarify, one is that individual councillors can opt out of raises in the future. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's one motion, but the two amendments that I'm seeking under the one motion. So that's why I asked if you like one and don't like the other. I asked for to go through to get the whatever council decides on. But yeah, definitely. Yeah, I see this as a service, not a job, and that's where my mentality is a little bit different. And yes, I will be donating my excess to a charity until such time as this policy does get approved, if it does get approved.
Councillor Span, do you have anything additional?
Yeah, I think that idea of untying council's wages from the CAO, I think that's a good idea. I don't necessarily have the same concerns that Mayor Hibbs has about the timing of bringing this up, but I do think council should operate as a unit when it comes to what they're getting paid. That's just my personal opinion.
I do see CEO Gowdy's light on, but just before I call on you to take the floor, an additional thing is, again, I feel like this is a much bigger conversation than just these two items. For example, another idea is right now the council remuneration committee is made up entirely of members of council. I, for example, would like to actually see members of the public on that. So that's why I feel like this is a really big conversation that I'm certainly not prepared to have tonight. I really do feel like this would be best dealt with in committee, and then it would come back to council at large to debate what those recommendations are. It would be my preference to postpone this conversation and refer it to that committee at minimum, if not to talk about it at strategic planning. I'm just unsure of the wording that I'm wanting to make, but I am wanting to make an amending motion to what you have brought forward. The motion that is brought forward at this time is that council direct administration to bring council remuneration and expenses policy for council's review, potential amendment to the next regular meeting of council. That is what the motion is. So it's not that there's amendments being proposed. That is what the motion is directing administration to do. And I guess my amendment to that motion would be that that it is not brought to the next regular meeting, that council direct this item to go to the subcommittee, to be referred to committee. CEO Gowdy, did you have comment?
My comment was just to clarify the purpose of the motion wasn't to make amendments today, which you did. But if I can now just clarify your amending motion, it would be to replace for council's review and potential amendment to the next regular meeting of council with for the council remuneration committee review and potential recommendations back to council.
That is correct. Yes. Are there any questions on that amendment?
Can we get that read out again?
I think we're in the process of typing that up. So what I'm asking essentially to do is to stand up that committee sooner than what we would traditionally have it, which is only just right going into an election, which obviously is approximately 4 years from now. But because we're looking at potential amendments, I'm asking and tasking, assuming that the amendment passes, that it would be the subcommittee that is made up of 3 members of council to look at this in great depth and weigh the possible options, and then they would come back to council with proposals, and then it would be reviewed, still reviewed and passed by council. Council has full ability to make changes, to accept or not accept the recommendations from that subcommittee.
Does that not change the motion too much? It almost completely, am I right in saying that? It almost makes the motion that was brought forward, nothing's left of it. Is that correct? Or am I missing something there? It feels to me a little bit like this needs to be voted on. And then maybe within that, then we can, if it gets voted down, then we can go down the path that you're talking about.
I'll have to make a decision on that, but Coordinator Post, do you have a comment?
I do. So the main motion is pending upon an amending motion. The amending motion gets addressed first, and then if it's defeated, then we come back to the main motion and vote on that. So currently what you're suggesting for your amending motion, if I'm correct, is an amendment to the main motion to replace for council's review with for the council remuneration committee review. Oh, excuse me, to replace that council direct administration to bring the council remuneration and expense policy for council's review and potential amendment to the next regular meeting of council with that council refers the council remuneration and expense policy to the council remuneration committee for potential recommendation for amendment to council.
More or less, I guess we're still asking administration to bring that, but it's now to the subcommittee rather than council. To Councillor Span's point, what you're looking for is clarification as to whether you think that it is truly an amending motion, because is it germane? Has the original motion been so changed? It would be my opinion that it is not, like that it is germane, that it is compliant with a proper amending motion. That would be my ruling. This is a bit awkward because of course it's my amending motion, which is generally why we don't make, as chair, we don't make motions. Councillor Dykeslide, do you have something in regards to that specifically, or something separate on the same topic? On this item specific,
Thank you, Mayor.
on the amendment versus,
Yes.
okay,
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs.
go ahead, please.
In regards to the amendment, I will be, I appreciate the amendment because I believe there's a committee that should be doing this work. And that committee needs to be honored and allowed to do the work as your amendment is suggesting. They exist for a reason. Let's let them do their job.
Thank you. So that is where we're at right now. We do have an amending motion on the floor. I have ruled that it is an appropriate amending motion. So that is where we're at now. If there's no further comment on that online either, then I would go ahead and call the question on the amendment. Now, keep in mind, this is not the full motion. This is, I mean, it's very much a large, it is just the amendment that we're voting on right now. And then we'll have to go actually and pass the main motion. So regardless, pass or fail on this amending motion. It is just the amending motion that we're voting on. I would call the question. Please go ahead and vote. The amendment has passed with a vote of 5 councillors in favor and 2 against. Councillor Span and De Bresser, that would be against. Now we return to the main motion, which has now been amended. The amended motion reads that Council Direct Administration, sorry, I've lost it. Coordinator Post, could you reread the motion now so that we're very clear on what we're voting?
That council refers the council remuneration and expense policy to the council remuneration committee for potential recommendations for amendments to council.
Thank you. No further comment on that. I would go ahead and call the question. Please enter your vote. And that is passed with a vote of 6-1 with Councillor De Bresser not in favor. Thank you. That does bring us to the end of our public agenda. We do have one in-camera item, but just before we go into that section of our agenda, I just would make note of the next meeting dates. We have February 9th, February 23rd, and March 9th as regular council meetings. We do not have any committee of the whole scheduled at this time. Please make sure that those are in your calendars. So the next item will be in camera, so I will need a motion that will move us in such. Councillor Goings.
I move that we move in camera.
Very well. So at 8:24, I'll call the question. All those in favor, or sorry, all those, if you would enter your vote. And that is unanimous. We are in camera at 8:24. Thank you.